Fast prototype PCB assembly for optimal efficiency and safety. In this video, we'll discuss fast prototype PCB assembly, the benefits it offers, the process behind it, design considerations, advantages, and safety considerations. What is fast prototype PCB assembly? Fast prototype PCB assembly is a way of quickly creating a working prototype of a printed circuit board, PCB, with minimal effort. This technique is used by engineers in order to quickly and efficiently test out the design of a PCB before committing to a full production run. The main goal of this process is to reduce the time and cost associated with producing a PCB prototype. Fast prototype PCB assembly is a great way to save time and money when developing a new product. It is also a great way to ensure that the prototype meets the desired specifications and is reliable. By using this method, engineers can quickly and easily create a working prototype of a PCB and then test it to make sure that it meets the desired specifications. Benefits of fast prototype PCB assembly. Fast prototype PCB assembly can save a lot of time and money for engineers. It is a great way to test out a design before committing to a full production run. It is also a great way to ensure that the prototype meets the desired specifications and is reliable. Another great benefit of fast prototype PCB assembly is that it can reduce the risk of failure during production. By testing out the design before committing to a full production run, engineers can quickly identify any potential issues and make corrections before they become major problems. Understanding the basics of fast prototype PCB assembly. Fast prototype PCB assembly is a process of quickly creating a working prototype of a printed circuit board, PCB. This method is used by engineers in order to quickly and efficiently test out the design of a PCB before committing to a full production run. The main goal of this process is to reduce the time and cost associated with producing a PCB prototype. In order to understand the basics of fast prototype PCB assembly, it is important to understand the components of a PCB. A PCB is composed of several different components, including the substrate, the layers, the components, and the soldering. The substrate is the base material used to create the PCB, while the layers are the various layers of copper that make up the circuit. The components are the various electronic components that are used to complete the circuit, while the soldering provides the electrical connections between the components. Types of fast prototype PCB assembly. There are several different types of fast prototype PCB assembly. The most common type is surface mount assembly, which involves soldering the components onto the surface of the PCB. This type of assembly is ideal for high-volume production runs, as it is fast and efficient. It is also less prone to errors as the components are already soldered onto the PCB. The other type of fast prototype PCB assembly is through-hole assembly. This type of assembly involves creating a hole in the PCB, inserting the components into the hole, and then soldering them together. This type of assembly is often used for prototyping, as it provides a quick and easy way to test out the design of a PCB before committing to a full production run. The process of fast prototype PCB assembly. Once the design of the PCB has been completed, the engineers must then create the PCB board. This is done by adding the components, laying down the layers of copper, and soldering the components together. This process can be done by hand or with the help of automated machines. Once the components have been soldered onto the PCB, they must then be tested to ensure that they are working correctly. This is done by running a few tests to check the functionality of the PCB. Once the tests have been completed, the engineers can then start the production process. Design considerations for fast prototype PCB assembly. When designing a PCB for fast prototype PCB assembly, it is important to keep a few things in mind. First, the design should be simple and easy to understand. This will make it easier for the engineers to quickly create the boards and test them. Second, the design should be modular, meaning that the components can be easily removed and replaced if needed. This will make it easier to troubleshoot any issues that may arise during the testing process. Third, the design should be cost-effective. This will ensure that the cost of manufacturing the boards is kept to a minimum. Finally, the design should be reliable. The board should be able to withstand the wear and tear of the production process and should be able to function correctly when used in the field. Advantages of fast prototype PCB assembly. There are several advantages to using fast prototype PCB assembly. First, it can save a lot of time and money for engineers. It is a great way to test out a design before committing to a full production run. It is also a great way to ensure that the prototype meets the desired specifications and is reliable. By using this method, engineers can quickly and easily create a working prototype of a PCB and then test it to make sure that it meets the desired specifications. Second, fast prototype PCB assembly can reduce the risk of failure during production. By testing out the design before committing to a full production run, engineers can quickly identify any potential issues and make corrections before they become major problems. Third, fast prototype PCB assembly can help to reduce the time and cost associated with the design process. By using this method, engineers can quickly and easily create a working prototype of a PCB and then test it to make sure that it meets the desired specifications. Finally, fast prototype PCB assembly can be used to quickly and easily create a prototype of a PCB. This can be used to test out the design and make sure that it meets the desired specifications before committing to a full production run. Disadvantages of fast prototype PCB assembly. Despite the many advantages of fast prototype PCB assembly, there are a few disadvantages as well. First, it can be difficult to troubleshoot any issues that arise during the testing process. This is because the components are already soldered onto the PCB, making it difficult to identify and fix any issues. Second, fast prototype PCB assembly can be expensive. This is because the components must be soldered onto the PCB and the process can take a long time. Third, there is a risk of damage to the components during the soldering process. This is because the components are fragile and can be easily damaged if not handled properly. Finally, fast prototype PCB assembly can be time-consuming. This is because the process of creating the boards and testing them can take a long time. Safety considerations for fast prototype PCB assembly. When using fast prototype PCB assembly, it is important to take safety precautions. First, the components should be handled carefully to avoid any damage. Second, all of the electrical connections should be double-checked to make sure that they are secure. It is also important to use the proper tools when creating the boards. All of the tools should be checked to make sure that they are in good condition and that they are being used correctly. Additionally, all of the components should be properly grounded and insulated to prevent any shocks or fires. Conclusion. If you're looking for a reliable and cost-effective method of creating a prototype PCB assembly, then fast prototype PCB assembly might be the right option for you. With the right design and safety considerations, you can quickly and easily create a reliable and cost-effective prototype PCB assembly. Visit our website, Winnow PCBA.